you wake up today
Yeah.
and you're a content guy. You put something new out every day. You study, you study, and maybe the greatest NFL player of all time announces he's retiring. How do you adjust? What goes through your mind?
It was one of those where, I wake up, 20 minutes before the alarm goes off. You look at your phone and you're like, oh shit, I'm now I'm up, and so then you look at your emails and it's before you do that, you're like, what am I going to talk about today? It's the Wednesday before Super Bowl week. I mean, normally the middle of an NFL week is a page turner where you've turned the page from the last to the next weekend, and this weekend's the Pro Bowl games complete with flag football, and you're like, what are we going to talk about? And then you're like, Tom Brady's retiring. Okay, there we go. We're good. That's when you start going down your guest list and saying, do I have to cancel anybody because it doesn't fit the equation, But to be honest with you, we and that's what he referred to in his retirement video that he shot in the dunes of some South Beach community, it looked like. And a couple things I was thinking of is, one, like, why did he choose that spot? And then, it's pointed out to me that the end of his new movie, he's shooting a video on the beach somewhere similar to that setup. And I'm wondering, is he doing this to help promote his new movie in a way? And then secondly, I'm like, could you imagine you're like some 80-year-old retiree, just moved down there and you got your metal detector and you're looking for like a lost, watch or whatever. And there's Tom Brady recording his farewell video. Like, oh, hey, Tom, what's up? But in all honesty, it's just talking about the same thing I talked about the last time he did it, which is the greatest to ever do it. And we just literally, it's funny. I asked members of my show production team, do you have the graphic that we used last year? And the graphic is his numbers is a 20-year-old, a 30-year-old, and a 40-year-old, and they're all Hall of Fame worthy. Wow. And they're like, yeah, we have it. We'll just update the 40-year-old stats. I'm like, great.
Amazing.
We went on the air and it was pretty much similar to last year, where he's still the greatest and he still has the numbers that are eye-popping.
He had a dry run last year.
Yeah.
It was amazing. Josh thought maybe he woke up this morning, went to see the movie and went, no, fuck this, I'm out of here.
Yeah, he's an actor now.
That's right.
Like, I got this.
Once you get a taste of working with Rita Moreno, you can't go back to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, right, Josh? You ever work with any of them? Do you ever work with any of the stars of 80 for Brady?
I haven't seen it yet. I just
no, it doesn't matter. But like, was Sally Field
who's in it?
Town?
I worked with Sally Field before. Yes, I have.
Okay.
On some show. I worked with her. Yes. Brothers and sisters. Brothers and sisters.
Okay, you should have said the Flying Nun just to see who caught it. Just to see who caught it. Yeah, working on the Flying Nun. Oh, okay, great.
In the Bandit 2, I was the gas attendant.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know who else is on it, but yeah, I didn't know I did.
Rich, what's the most incredible thing about Tom Brady's career? The 7 titles, the longevity, the sustained success, or the fact that he's a Michigan man?
Yeah. Well, you can't just choose one, Rex. I mean, the two things that I talked about today on my show it's the stat as a 40-year-old that his numbers since turning 40, because it speaks to his longevity and it speaks to his greatness and it speaks to his desire to compete that is on the level of Jordan and on the level of Kobe and LeBron and Tiger and Serena. Name anybody at that level of the pantheon in sports. He does that. That's him. So the fact that he would eat and live and become somebody who just lived and ate the competition and made sure his body would be prepared for it and succeed for as long as he did, like his career after turning 40 is a Hall of Fame career in itself. 194 career touchdowns. He He had almost 30,000 yards passing as a 40-year-old. His last game as a professional, the Monday night loss in the wild card round at Dallas, he threw 66 passes. Now, we may see somebody do that again in a playoff game. It's not a record. Big Ben actually set the record in 2020. But when he was down so much against the Cleveland Browns, he had to keep throwing it. But we'll never see somebody throw as many passes in a game like that when it's 21 more attempts than the years he was on the planet. You know, he's a 45-year-old throwing for 66 attempts in a game, and his numbers as a 40-year-old are absurd. And then you want to talk about his longevity. The aspect that I talked about his career as well is that his first Super Bowl of his 10 and his first win of his 7 Super Bowls came when he was, as you know, a first-year starter for the Patriots by necessity due to injury to Drew Bledsoe, and how that Super Bowl he was in was the 9/11 Super Bowl.
Wow.
And that feels like such a lifetime ago for so many of us. And that there's an entire generation now of people who, draft Tom Brady in fantasy leagues and root for him or root against him and have seen him play at the peak level because he played till he was 45, who don't understand the significance of what I'm referring to.
Yeah.
That his career, he won the 9/11 Super Bowl in New Orleans when the whole country had their hearts in their throats about whether this game, would be uninterrupted despite it being months after 9/11. It was the biggest target America's ever put on stage. And I remember it was like a fort. I've never seen before or since, to be honest with you, a security perimeter like the one that was around the Superdome that day.
Wow.
And Paul McCartney performed before the game, and U2 performed halftime of the game. And it was a team called the Patriots coming in the way of the greatest show on turf, and a huge underdog story that Tom Brady completed, even to his own amazement. The famous photograph of his hands on his head as he's looking at, I think, his family in the crowd, like he couldn't believe what had happened. That was his first, man, and so he's been there and he's done that. And there's really no other way to term it other than unprecedented. I don't know how it'll ever be touched.